My breath caught in the dim glow of the studio loft, where the air hung heavy with the scent of oil paints and her skin musky, alive, like earth after rain. I lay there, tangled in sheets that smelled of us, my body still humming from the way she'd touched me moments before. Her fingers had traced paths down my spine, slow and deliberate, igniting sparks that made my hips arch instinctively toward her. I felt her warmth pressed against me, our legs entwined, her thigh slipping between mine in a way that sent a shiver through my core. It was intimate, the kind of closeness that blurred where I ended and she began, her breath warm on my neck as I surrendered to the rhythm we'd found together. Down there, where our bodies met in secret urgency, I felt the pulse of her against me, a gentle pressure that built until waves crashed over us both, leaving me trembling in the afterglow. But even as my heart raced from that shared peak, a shadow crept into my mind. This wasn't the polished world I'd been born into, the marble halls, the endless galas, the fortune that wrapped around me like a gilded cage. No, this was her world, cluttered canvases stacked against walls, brushes scattered like forgotten promises, and the faint hum of the city below seeping through cracked windows. I'd chosen this, traded silk for cotton, certainty for chaos. Why? Because in her arms I felt seen, not as an heiress with expectations piled high, but as a woman raw and wanting. Yet, as her hand rested on my hip, possessive and tender, doubt whispered, had I thrown away everything for a love that might fade like one of her unfinished sketches? The moment stretched, our bodies sinking in quiet recovery, her chest rising and falling against mine, our hearts beating in tandem. I remembered the first time we'd crossed that line, how her lips had brushed mine in a stolen kiss under the gallery lights, but now, in this bed, it was deeper, her exploring hands slipping under my shirt, fingertips grazing the curve of my breast, drawing out sighs I couldn't hold back. It was sensual, the way she moved with me, our forms melding in a dance of longing. I savored the taste of her on my lips, salty and sweet, reminder of how she guided me to unravel, her touch lingering in places that made me ache for more. But beneath the pleasure, a twist loomed, the letter from my family, tucked away in my bag, demanding I return to the life of luxury or lose it all. How could I explain to her, this struggling artist who'd captured my soul, that loving her meant forsaking a fortune? As we lay there, limbs entwined, I traced the lines of her tattoos with my eyes, swirls of color that told stories of her hardships, her passions. Her body, lean from late nights and skipped meals, fit against mine perfectly, her warmth seeping into my skin like sunlight through fog. I felt a surge of protectiveness, wanting to shield her from the world's cruelties, even as my own world threatened to pull me back. The intimacy wasn't just physical, it was the way she made my walls crumble, exposing vulnerabilities I'd hidden behind wealth. In that moment, with her breath steadying beside me, I wondered if this was the peak of our story or the beginning of its unraveling. The city lights flickered outside, casting shadows that danced across our bare forms, and I held her closer, our chests pressed tight, hearts whispering secrets through skin. The hook of it all was this. I'd walked away from billions for her touch, her gaze that saw through my facade. But as ecstasy faded into quiet, the reality bit harder, my inheritance, the family empire, all conditional on a life without her. Yet here I was, choosing passion over privilege, her body a canvas I wanted to paint my future on. The emotional pull was intoxicating, a mix of fear and desire that kept me anchored to her side. The spark had ignited months earlier, in a gallery tucked away in the city's bohemian district, where the air buzzed with creativity and whispered dreams. I wandered in on a whim, escaping the suffocating boardroom meetings that defined my days as the heiress to a vast media empire. Dressed in tailored silk that screamed privilege, I felt out of place among the eclectic crowd, but something drew me deeper, the vibrant strokes on the walls, alive with emotion I rarely allowed myself to feel. And then there she was, standing beside her piece, a whirlwind of color depicting a storm-tossed sea, her hands stained with pigment, her eyes fierce and inviting. She was everything I wasn't, free-spirited, unpolished, with wild curls framing a face that held stories of struggle. Her clothes were thrift store finds, practical yet alluring, hugging her form in ways that made my gaze linger. As I approached her canvas, our eyes met, and a current passed between us, subtle, electric, like the first hint of rain. I felt a pull in my chest, a curiosity that bloomed into something warmer. She didn't know who I was. To her, I was just another admirer, and that anonymity was intoxicating. We stood close, her scent of turpentine and jasmine wrapping around me, as I traced the painting's lines with my fingers, imagining them as extensions of her soul. From that night, our connection grew slowly, like a brushstroke building layers. I'd visit her studio under the guise of interest in her art, but really, it was her presence that captivated me. We'd sit on worn stools, her sketching while I watched, our knees brushing accidentally at first, then intentionally. The chemistry simmered, her laugh, light and genuine, cutting through my guarded exterior, my stories of high society absurdities drawing smiles from her lips. One evening, as rain pattered against the windows, she reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear, her touch lingering on my cheek. My heart stuttered, a flush rising as I leaned in, our foreheads nearly touching. It was the start of our romance, that simple gesture unlocking a flood of longing I'd suppressed for years. As weeks passed, the spark fanned into flame. We'd walk the streets hand in hand, hidden from prying eyes, her fingers interlacing with mine under cafe tables, sending tingles up my arm. Her touch was always gentle yet insistent, pulling me closer during stolen moments in alleyways, where she'd press me against a wall, our bodies aligning in a prelude to more. I remembered the first kiss vividly. In her studio, surrounded by half-finished works, she set down her brush and turned to me, her eyes dark with intent. Our lips met softly at first, then deeper, her hands sliding to my waist, pulling me flush against her. The sensation was electric, her mouth warm, tasting of coffee and creativity, our breaths mingling as passion built. My hands roamed her back, feeling the strength beneath her shirt, our chests tightening together in shared desire. The romance deepened with each encounter. She'd invite me to her world of late-night inspirations, where we'd share wine on her threadbare couch, our legs crossing casually at first, then purposefully, her thigh against mine sparking heat that spread upward. Intimacy wove through our days, her brushing paint from my skin with tender strokes, me resting my head on her shoulder as she worked, feeling the rhythm of her breathing. Inner thoughts swirled, how her vulnerability, born from scraping by on commissions, mirrored my own hidden insecurities behind wealth. Humor crept in too, like when she'd tease my inability to mix colors, our laughter dissolving into lingering gazes that promised more. One night, the connection intensified. We lay on her floor amidst sketches, our bodies inching closer until we were side by side, her arm draping over me. Her fingers traced patterns on my arm, slipping under my sleeve, grazing sensitive skin that made me shiver. We moved in sync, our forms pressing together, legs entwining as warmth built between us. Down there, her gentle pressure elicited gasps I buried in her neck, our peaks arriving in harmonious waves. It was emotional, this unraveling. She made me feel safe, desired for who I was, not what I owned. Yet, as affection grew, so did my secret fear, my family's expectations looming like unspoken shadows. The spark had become a steady glow, our romance a sanctuary from my inherited life. But with each kiss, 3 now, each more fervent than the last, I wondered how long I could keep my world separate. As our bond deepened, the turning point arrived unannounced, like a crack in a flawless facade. I'd begun spending more nights in her loft, our intimacy evolving into a ritual of shared vulnerability. We'd entwine after her long days at the easel, my hands exploring the contours of her body under the covers, feeling the rise and fall of her breaths as we moved together in quiet harmony. Her touch down there was knowing, drawing out sensations that left me breathless, our legs crossing in a tangle that amplified every pulse. It was in these moments, with her body against mine, chests pressed tight, that I felt truly alive, her unraveling my defenses, whispering safety into my soul without words. But one afternoon, as I returned from a family luncheon, the twist struck. I found a letter slipped under her door, embossed with my family's crust, its contents a stark ultimatum: return to the fold, marry into alliance, or forfeit the inheritance that had defined my security. My heart plummeted. I'd hidden my background from her, fearing it would taint our pure connection. Now the worlds collided. I sat on her floor, the paper trembling in my hands, as she worked obliviously across the room. Inner turmoil raged. How could I choose between the fortune that promised stability and the woman whose love ignited my passion? That evening, the shift intensified. We came together with a new urgency, her hands slipping under my shirt, fingertips tracing my ribs before venturing lower, our bodies sinking in a dance of need. The kiss that followed was fervent, our lips crashing as if to seal away the doubts, her thigh pressing between mine, eliciting a heat that built to shattering release. Yet, as we lay spent, limbs entwined, I felt the complication burrow deeper. She sensed my distraction, her eyes searching mine, but I couldn't voice the truth yet. The emotional stakes rose. Loving her meant risking everything, including the safety net I'd always known. The twist deepened when I attended a gallery opening with her, our hands linked under the table, her foot brushing mine in subtle affection. Whispers circulated rumors of my identity leaking, and suddenly, eyes turned our way. She pulled me into a shadowed corner, our bodies close, her breath on my neck as we shared a stolen kiss, soft and reassuring. But inside, fear gnawed. My family had spies, and this exposure could force my hand. As we returned to her loft that night, our intimacy peaked again, her guiding me to the bed, legs intertwining, touches intimate and probing, down there where pleasure crested in waves. It was a mix of joy and pain, her presence a balm against the looming loss. The complication twisted further. I began receiving calls, ignored but persistent, pulling me toward the life I'd fled. Our romance, once a spark, now burned with intensity, each touch a reminder of what I stood to lose. Humor faded, replaced by poignant moments, like her painting me in the nude, her gaze adoring, making me feel cherished. But the ultimatum hung heavy, a shadow over our closeness. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying this story, hit subscribe to Sapphic Tales so you don't miss the next one. The conflict escalated like a gathering storm, tensions weaving through our days and nights. Our intimacy persisted, an anchor amid the chaos, mornings where I'd wake to her body curled against mine, her hand resting on my hip, slipping lower in lazy exploration that stirred us both awake. Legs crossing, chests tightening, we'd move in unison, her touch down there igniting fires that consumed my worries temporarily. But the external pressures mounted. My family's demands grew insistent, veiled threats of disinheritance if I didn't abandon this phase. Internally, fears blossomed, doubt that our love could survive without the cushion of wealth, worry that she'd resent me for dragging her into my drama. We'd walk hand in hand through parks, her thumb stroking my palm, but my mind raced with what-ifs. One evening, as we shared a bath, bubbles hiding our forms, her foot nudged mine underwater, leading to a slow entanglement where bodies pressed close, sensations building to shared peaks. It was sensual, vulnerable, her unraveling me emotionally as much as physically. Yet, afterward, lying entwined, synced hearts beating, I felt the pain of potential loss. The obstacles piled up, a confrontation with my sister, who tracked me down, her words echoing in my head about duty over desire. I returned to the loft shaken, seeking solace in her arms. We kissed deeply that night, our fourth, urgent and laced with desperation, her hands under my shirt, grazing my breasts, drawing moans I stifled against her shoulder. Our legs intertwined, pressure building down there until release washed over us, but tears mingled with sweat, my insecurities surfacing. She held me through it, her presence a quiet affirmation, though the fear of breaking her heart gnawed at me. Humor tried to pierce the tension, like when she'd sketch caricatures of stuffy heiresses, making me laugh until our bodies leaned into each other, heads on shoulders, warmth spreading. But the stakes rose, commissions dried up for her, whispers suggesting my family's influence at play. Our romance strained under the weight, nights of bedside whispers in my mind, sharing hopes and fears silently through touches. I'd brush her hair back, resting my head on her chest, feeling vulnerable in ways wealth never allowed. The escalation peaked in small breakdowns, me pacing the studio, her watching with concern, then pulling me close for comfort. Intimacy became our refuge, another kiss, soft and lingering, leading to entangled limbs, synced movements that brought release and temporary peace. But external forces pressed, invitations to galas I declined, leading to cut-offs from accounts. Longing mixed with grief, I yearned for a life where we could be free, but reality bit hard. Pain deepened the bond paradoxically, her struggles mirroring mine, her art block from stress, my emotional unraveling. We'd fall asleep together, bodies spooned, her arm over me protectively, vulnerability raw in the quiet. The conflict tore at me, fortune's pull versus love's gravity. The crisis erupted on a rain-soaked evening, the city a blur outside her window as I stood before her, the ultimatum's deadline looming. My family had frozen assets, leaving me with nothing but the clothes I'd packed in haste. I arrived at the loft drenched, heart pounding, knowing this could be our breaking point. She pulled me inside, her touch immediate, hands cupping my face, leading to a kiss that was raw, desperate, our fifth and most intense yet. Lips crashed, bodies pressing tight, her guiding me to the wall where legs intertwined, pressure down there building to a frantic peak that shattered us both. It was a high of passion amid the low of despair, our synced forms trembling in release. But the emotional low followed swiftly. I collapsed into her arms, the weight of loss crashing down. Tears flowed as I imagined life without her or without the security I'd known. She held me, our bodies entwined on the floor, chests heaving in shared grief. Inner fears screamed. I dragged her into poverty, her art suffering because of me. The climax built, a call from my father, ignored but echoing, demanding I choose. In that moment, vulnerability peaked. We lay together, her fingers tracing my skin under my shirt, a tender exploration that led to another intimate crest, down there where her touch unraveled my pain into fleeting ecstasy. The crisis deepened with a breakdown. I paced, mind swirling with heartbreak, fearing goodbye. She stopped me, pulling me to bed for our first full night of raw confession through actions, bodies melding, legs crossing, peaks sinking in waves that affirmed our bond. But doubt lingered. Could love conquer fortune's void? The emotional stakes hit their zenith, hope flickering amid fear. Just a quick pause. If you're enjoying this, hit that subscribe button and stay with us here on Sapphic Tales. If it kept you hooked, subscribe now to Sapphic Tales so you never miss the next. In the aftermath of that stormy night, resolution dawned slowly, like light filtering through clouds. We rose together, bodies still warm from the night's intimacies, her hand in mine as we faced the dawn. I'd chosen, her over fortune, passion over privilege. The transformation was profound. I sold what little I had left, investing in her art, our lives intertwining in a new rhythm. Our romance healed the wounds, mornings of gentle touches, hands under shirts leading to synced peaks, legs entwined in affirmations of forever. Reconciliation came in quiet moments, walks where we'd hold hands openly, her head on my shoulder, vulnerability turning to strength. The first night in our shared future felt sacred, falling asleep spooned, hearts beating in harmony, fears whispered away through skin. Hope bloomed, discovery in our joint creations, release from old chains. As I reflected, lying beside her, our bodies close, I knew the choice was right. Love's uncertain path outshone luxury's glare. In her, I found true wealth. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying this story, hit subscribe to Sapphic Tales so you don't miss the next one.